Welcome, everybody. And this can be an interactive webinar, so you're going to want your phone. So for some of the interactive parts, so if that's in another room or anything, you might want to go grab it. Welcome. If you're just joining us, we're going to get started in a few moments. We did test run before, but everybody can see myself and my colleague Nora. We both have blue and orange backgrounds. And then everybody can see the big screen that says MLK Day 2024. Seeing some nods and thumbs up. Awesome. Thank you all for joining us on a Saturday morning. We're going to get started in a few minutes. Nice to see some familiar names, some of our frequent volunteers, some of our board members, our Volunteer New York colleagues. So awesome. And probably some new names that I've never seen before. So thanks for coming today. We'll tell you a bit about Volunteer New York, and thanks for joining us this morning. I'm going to give people some time. Maybe they're eating their bagel and lox for the morning. So we'll let them get their breakfast all set or getting their cup of coffee.
And for those of you that are just joining, you're going to need a phone. This is an interactive webinar, so if you have a phone nearby, get that ready.
And you're all going to remain muted. Just Nora and I will be unmuted. So if you have any issues, we've allowed it so you can chat with one of our Volunteer New York colleagues if you have any technical issues of any sorts. And the interactive side will be using your phone or maybe another browser on your computer. But we'll explain a bit more. And we'll get started in a few moments. And you can turn your video on or off, whatever you prefer. Alrighty, so I'm going to get started. So welcome. Thank you all for joining us this Saturday morning. We're here with Volunteer New York. And we can go over to the next slide. My name is Abby First, and I'm joined with my colleague Nora Nicholson, and we have many of our amazing Volunteer New York colleagues on the back end, including Jennifer Machuca and Nicole Laurence. And I want to give Nicole a special shout out because she's put this whole MLK Day together. And so we're all here with Volunteer New York, and we're excited to welcome you to the Civic Minded MLK Day interactive webinar. So Volunteer New York, for those that don't know, we were founded in 1950, and our mission is to mobilize our community to address its greatest needs. address our greatest challenges. And our mission is our community is vibrant, resilient, and equitable. We were founded in 1950, and we last year inspired 35,000 volunteers, mobilized 445,000 hours of service to the community, and supported over 300 nonprofit organizations. We like to say we're the matchmaker for nonprofits and volunteers. So whether you're a high school student watching this right now and you need to do some community service hours, which this can count as, so feel free to send us an email after and we'll send you over a form or sign whatever you need. So whether you need to do hours or you're 55 and older or your family member is and you're looking to get back to the community, we have a program for 55 and older adults. We also have a corporate volunteer program. So if you want to get together with your colleagues and give back to the community, we can help you with that on as well. And since 2011, Volunteer New York has hosted the MLK Day of Service to give people in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties the opportunity to come together in service in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Though the projects and format have changed, the goal has remained the same. And we're excited to come together to talk about Dr. King's message and how we can each take action to create a just community. And as we mentioned earlier, this is going to be an interactive webinar. So I'm going to start by explaining the interactive elements and how Mentimeter is going to work. So grab your phones, but if you would prefer, you can use another browser on your computer. But we just find it's easier on a smartphone if you have one, so you're not toggling back and forth between Zoom and your browser. And if there are multiple people in your household, you can all use your own device or like individual devices, or you can all use just one. And everything you're going to be submitting is anonymous. But Mentimeter is an online presentation building tool that facilitates audience engagement. And the tool allows presenters to include polls, multiple choice, and open-ended questions that you, the audience, can interact with live. And this is new technology with us, so please bear with us if we have any technical problems. We're still learning. So once you've logged on, you've scanned that QR code or gone straight to that website, you'll be connected to the questions and polls within the presentation. And again, all responses are anonymous, so we encourage you to be open and honest throughout, and there are no wrong answers. So I'm going to give you a few moments to log in, seeing a couple of thumbs ups. Nice. And feel free if you're having any issues with it, type it in the chat and one of our Volunteer New York colleagues will help you figure out the issue. I don't know if you all see it, but thumbs up, some of them are colorful, which is fun. So I don't know if you all get to pick what color you do as your thumbs up, but nice. Great. So it seems like a lot of you are connected. So we can go on to the next slide. If ever throughout the presentation, Mentimeter falls out of sync with the presentation, you'll just see at the top of your phone, click to go to next slide, and you're just going to click that and you'll sync back up to our presentation. So we ready to give it a try? Thumbs up. Seeing both real life thumbs up and ones from the app. So let's test out Mentimeter. So we're all here today because Monday is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So what are some words that come to mind when you think of his legacy? And feel free to think back to the pre-work of Dr. King's Birth of a New Age from 1956, or his letter from Birmingham jail from 1963. He's pioneering. And it's really this is a word cloud. So as more people put in words, they come together. The bigger it is, the more people said it. So right now, equality, a couple people have said equality, which is great. Community, compassionate, strong, peaceful. Justice and peace also coming up as common ones. This is great. Pioneering, powerful. These are awesome. So as many of you shared, and keep putting in answers if you want, as many of you shared, the legacy of Dr. King has been shaped by the years since he was assassinated. We think of him as a civil rights leader who used nonviolence to create change. But much of what we were taught focuses on colorblindness and his I Have a Dream speech. But Dr. King is an important figure in this civil rights movement, but was no means the only leader. And his beliefs and legacy are so much more than one speech. Looking back, his legacy is a positive one. However, in 1966, a Gallup poll found that 66% of Americans had an unfavorable view of him. That was up from 37% in 1963. Dr. King was revolutionary, calling for economic and racial justice, pushing against the status quo, and calling out those who upheld it, either through action or silence. He was not one to wait for the status quo to change. He sought to create change and inspire others for justice. In his letter from a Birmingham jail, which was part of the pre-work, if some of you read it, and if you didn't get a chance, no worries, feel free to read it after. I was really inspired. I've been hearing about that letter for years, and this Civic Circle engaged me to actually read it. So I was very thankful and grateful for that opportunity, and it's a great letter. But he said in it, we know through painful experience that freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. So before we go to the next slide, just take a moment, look at this again to see how we all see his legacy. And again, the bigger the word, the more people said it. We can go on to the next slide. So two consistent messages appear throughout many speeches over his many years as a leader. First, the idea that we cannot sit idly by and wait for progress to happen. Action is needed. People need to demand action and work towards it. And the second idea was silence and upholding the status quo is just as harmful as bad actors. So take a moment to read this quote on the screen from his letter from a Birmingham jail. I think everyone has had a chance. So Dr. King calls out the appalling silence of good people. Later on in his letter, he says, quote, shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm warm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection, end quote. We need to be the doers working towards justice, not those upholding the status quo. That's why we're all here today to learn how each of us can take action to create change.
Thanks, Abby. Volunteer New York is an affiliate organization of Points of Light who works to create a global culture of civic engagement. Over the last 3 years, Points of Light has been studying what it means to bring the Civic Circle to life. In other words, how are people making a difference? Why are they choosing to do so? And what challenges are they facing? In 2020, they found that 3 in 10 adults have not volunteered in the past year, but are interested in doing so. When questioned further, a whopping 66% of those surveyed didn't believe they could make a difference in their community. 40% didn't know what to do that would be helpful. And 44% weren't sure how to get involved. If any of this resonates with you and your experience, when you think about what it means to do good, our hope is that this conversation will help guide you toward actionable steps you can take. Now, let's go to the Mentimeter. As we dive in, we want you to first begin by taking a moment to think about an issue or cause you are passionate about and entering that information into the Mentimeter. Is there something you've been a long-time supporter of? Perhaps there's an issue where you have lived experience and you're passionate about that. Whatever comes to mind, please enter it now. Health equity, disability rights, education, women's reproductive rights, the environment, disability, belonging, inclusion. These are all incredible issues, and I'm just going to keep seeing these come in for a minute because they're really incredible. Public health, women's rights, anti-racism, affordable housing, financial equity. So many great things to be passionate about. Now I'm going to ask you another question on the Mentimeter. For the next question, have you taken some form of action in support of this issue or cause in the last 6 months, large or small, and it's okay to say no? And it looks like there are a lot of people that are actively engaging in their cause and in their causes that they're passionate about, and there's some that haven't yet, and that's okay. Now we're going to ask you, if you answered no, we want to understand the reasons why. And for those of you that said yes, we want you to think about, why wouldn't people act? Why wouldn't people take some form of action about an issue that they're passionate about? Time, yes, absolutely. Not sure where to start. Accessibility, yes. They're afraid, yes. Not enough time. They're not an expert. That really resonates with me. They're stuck. It feels overwhelming. Yes, absolutely. There's so much going on. Self-confidence, not sure how to get involved. They don't want to seem ignorant. They don't want to rustle feathers. Yes, yes, all of these things. And then for those who did answer yes, so we're going to go to the next, actually, we'll wait for, that's okay. If you answered yes, we want to understand why. What was the catalyst for you to take action? And we want you to respond in the Mentimeter now. Someone local who needed help. You're a part of the community. Yes. You have passion. You feel you have to. Personal experience. You have the time. The action was needed. Your experiences. Organization. The future of my grandchildren. Yes. It takes a village. Yes, absolutely. Join like-minded people. I too am an immigrant. These are incredible, incredible answers. Now that we have a bit of understanding around your perspectives and background on taking action, we want to share a little bit about the Points of Light framework for taking action. And I'm going to turn that back over to Abby.
Thanks, Nora. And those were all great responses to see. Thanks all for engaging with the Mentimeter. So before we dive deeper, I want to just make sure we're all on the same page. So we're going to define some key terms. So the word civic gets used a lot in this space. And by civic, we're referring to the duties or activities of people in relation to their town, city, local area, or even a larger community that may not be location-based. And now we're going to talk about civic engagement. When we take the action around the issues and causes we care about, we're taking civic action. And while civic engagement can be defined in a number of ways, it can be broadly defined as participation in activities or civic actions that improve a community or address a wider social issue.
As we think about the types of actions that drive civic engagement, what comes to mind for you? What form do these actions take? Take a moment and share your ideas. Youth programs, hosting food drives, education, protests, advocacy, redistributing resources, speaking out, talking to elected officials, advocating, organizing, protesting, scholarships, roundtable discussions, spreading awareness.
And if you're not sure how to use the Mentimeter, feel free to go to menti.com on your phone or another browser and use the code at the top of the screen. We're also going to put this information in the chat.
So these are all incredible examples of civic engagement. Yes, education, people having forums and organized action, supporting this in elected office, educating yourself, protesting, meetings like this, yes. Hands-on support, like working at a food pantry, speaking up and being engaged, campaigning. Community meetings, yes. So now we're going to look at the Civic Circle. The Civic Circle represents a person's power to lead, lend, support, and take action for causes they care about, and to lead a civic life. It helps individuals connect to opportunities and understand that doing good comes in many forms. And no matter one's age, race, or religion, people can take action through one of several elements of the Civic Circle. At Volunteer New York, we believe everyone can serve. And this is a very important thing that we all need to consider. We mentioned a few minutes ago that recent research revealed that many people don't know how to get started when it comes to taking civic action and aren't sure they can make a difference. It's through the Civic Circle that we believe people can find a stepping stone for taking action.
So now we're going to take a walk around the Civic Circle. And don't worry, you can stay in your seat and enjoy your coffee. So what does each Civic Circle represent? We're going to begin with listening learning because this is the foundation for any civic action you take. The more informed you are, the better decisions you can make about how to best support your community and the issues and causes you care about. When we act without listening and learning, we can unintentionally cause harm. So it's important to listen to the experts and those with lived experiences, research your topic, and so much more.
Volunteer. This is one of our favorites at Volunteer New York. Sharing your time and talent to advance a cause or support resolution for a societal issue without personal gain. From a one-time activity to pro bono service, volunteerism takes many shapes and forms. This can include mowing the lawn of an elderly neighbor or sitting on the board of a nonprofit. I'm sure you're all familiar with the incredible 9/11 Serve and Remember community-wide days of service. This is another example of volunteerism. Service is another circle in the Civic Circle. We often think of service as synonymous with volunteerism, but we define service as committing time, energy, and talent in support of the greater public good. This includes national service like AmeriCorps, military service, local fire and law enforcement, and those in public office. This includes serving at the state and national level, but also serving in your local government on a board or on an advisory panel. And this is something that's close to my heart. I recently stepped up and volunteer. I'm a representative for my village, and I'm giving back that way.
And the next Civic Circle we're going to talk about is donate. Donate can be sharing personal resources to advance the cause. This can be financial through the donation of goods and services, mutual aid, and even medical donations like blood. Did you know January is National Blood Donor Month? Feel free to find a local blood drive with American Red Cross and New York Blood Center. I'm giving on Wednesday, so join me this month. And we are in a blood shortage emergency. And another circle is purchase power, making spending decisions that reflect your values or advance the cause you care about. We see this when we shop small or support minority-owned businesses.
Work. Making choices about employment based on the values and purpose of the place you work or how you can leverage your workplace giving programs to support a cause. While some may go into a specific field like becoming a teacher because they're passionate about education, others may value working for an employer that provides opportunities to meaningfully support their communities. It is worthwhile to see if your employer supports company volunteering in your community. And this is something that Volunteer New York can help with. We have a corporate volunteer program that can support corporate volunteers going out in the community and serving. Another circle is social entrepreneurship. Identifying a need that has not been met by traditional institutions, structures, and systems, and using entrepreneurial spirit to drive change. Social entrepreneurs bring innovative solutions to tackle problems. An example of this is Ben & Jerry's. They started their company. They were founded with social responsibility as their primary focus, and they take on issues and raise funds for issues that they care about.
Nora's getting me hungry for ice cream. The next circle is voice. Voice is influencing your network to raise awareness, promote, protest, advocate, or advance a cause or social issue. We see the use of voice in art, music, on social media, and even around a dinner table with family and friends. And the final circle is vote. Engaging in political process, from participating in elections to supporting efforts that increase engagement in these elections. It's more than the act of voting itself and can include becoming a poll worker or supporting a candidate. And remember, all elections matter, including your small local ones. And in the 2020 election, 80 million eligible voters did not vote. Imagine the impact if all these voters went to the polls.
Within each circle, civic actions can be formal or informal in nature. Formal actions are typically through existing structures and institutions. Some example of formal civic actions are volunteering for a day's service through a nonprofit organization, donating to a canned food drive through your workplace, or voting at your designated polling place. Examples of informal civic action are cooking meals for a sick neighbor, colleagues collecting clothing and household items for a coworker who has lost their home in a fire, or having a simple conversation with friends about a cause you actively support. Often the informal actions are ones we don't consider to be taking civic action, but they can have the same level of significance as more formal actions. In fact, Points of Light conducted research in the US, the UK, India, and Brazil in January 2022, and found that the leading civic actions around the world were the less formal forms of civic engagement, listening and learning, and using your voice. There's no one size fits all form of civic engagement. Civic engagement can take many forms. So let's take a moment to reflect by revisiting the question we posed earlier about the civic actions you've taken in the last 6 months. Knowing what you know now about the Civic Circle, has your answer about taking action changed? Have you done more than you realized, and in what ways?
And don't forget, if your device has gone out of sync, you'll see something at the top. Just click that to go to slide. And if you aren't on Mentimeter, use your phone or computer to go to menti.com and use the code at the top of the screen or in the chat.
I've done more, focusing on supporting my neighbors, friends, and family. Yes, yes, I've donated time and money, taken a meal to a sick friend. Yeah, it's the informal actions that we don't think about. And those really matter. Those are really important too. Yes, I've donated time, donations. My heart is filled. Donated money. Yes. Supporting local businesses and not big chain stores. Yes, absolutely. Writing postcards to get out the vote. I've done more. My answer remains the same. I've done more informally than I realized. Yes. So this is what we want you to be thinking about, these actions. Exactly. Amazing. So hopefully these different iterations of civic action inspire you on a personal level. But there may be some of you thinking, okay, so now I have a better idea of the things I can do to take action, both formal and informal. But how does that lead to real and impactful change? Now I want you to think about a time when there's been a large-scale social change. Can you think of an example when people power drove change, and what comes to mind? This could be something that had national or global impact, or even one that occurred in your own community. And the civil rights movement is a great example. Women's rights, Me Too movement, yes. Black Lives Matter, school integration, Stonewall, disability rights, Black Lives Matter, yes, when George Floyd was killed, absolutely. Saved our local public library, local school board elections, changing language. Yes, all of these are incredible ideas. And I think I'll give you one small example from my own. As I said, I'm on the village board here in Croton-on-Hudson. We had a traffic issue that came up last week where there was a gate that was unlocked on a particular road that's supposed to be used only for emergency vehicles. And at our board meeting, we had about 10 of the neighbors show up and tell us that there was an issue and that if we didn't take action, someone was going to get hurt. And it was so impactful because they shared information that we just weren't aware of. We weren't aware of, the police weren't aware of, and that firsthand account made us make a change the very next day. So these are all power of your neighbors, power of the people. All of these movements are so, so important.
So now we're going to bring it all together. Why should you care? You might be thinking these aren't new concepts. We didn't invent voting or donating, and that's true, we did not. But when we think about the challenges in the world today, challenges that have largely existed for long periods of time and seem to be getting worse, we need to reconsider how we tackle these challenges. For most of our challenges, if our governments, nonprofits, or companies act alone, we don't see sustained change. However, when these entities come across sectors and work together, we start to see change happen. And the same is true when it comes to individual civic action. We need the power of individual people to affect change, but that power cannot be one-dimensional. It is through a combination of civic actions that change becomes not only more impactful, but also that change happens more quickly. So while the world does not need us to create new forms of engagement, people do need a more expansive understanding of what they, the individual, can do to accelerate change. So now I'm going to apply the Civic Circle to a specific issue of food insecurity. Food insecurity was an issue that impacts people around the world, and Dr. King was very passionate about it in his life. He stated, quote, "I have the audacity to believe that peoples everywhere can have 3 meals a day for their bodies, education, and culture for their minds and dignity, equality, and freedom for their spirits." End quote. Feeding America defines food insecurity as a lack of consistent access to enough food for every person in a household to live an active, healthy life. And it's more than having sufficient access to any food, about having access to quality, nutritious food. For example, a family may rely on fast food or processed foods because they cannot afford to buy fresh produce. The causes of food insecurity and hunger are more than we have to cover today and vary based on the location in the world. But a few causes include poverty, unemployment, or low income, lack of affordable housing, chronic health conditions or lack of access to health care, environmental factors such as drought, supply chain issues, systematic racism, and racial discrimination. And just to underscore the global scale of this issue, here are a few statistics from the World Food Program. Up to 811 million people go to bed hungry every night. 44 million people around the world on the edge of famine. So as we can see, this issue is much more complex and affects a large number of people. I learned on Wednesday that this summer will be the first year a new permanent federal program to provide food assistance to hungry children will exist. This program is expected to serve 21 million kids starting around June and provide $2.5 billion in relief across the country. However, 15 states are rejecting this program, denying benefits to 8 million children across the country. And now we're going to take it to more local level because we at Volunteer New York serve Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties. So locally, Feeding Westchester and their 300 partners serve 220,000 people each month. Last year, they distributed 21 million pounds of food, which is equivalent to 17 million meals, and 42%, or 8.8 million pounds of that, was fresh produce. This is all distributed by local food pantries at schools, religious institutions, youth programs, community centers, and other nonprofits. 80% of the food is distributed through them. These organizations are found in every community in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties because hunger is found in every community in Westchester, Rockland, and Putnam counties. So as we can see, this is an issue that's very complex and affects a large number of people. Mind-blowing fact that I learned around the holidays last year was that Feeding Westchester shared that Kevin McAllister, the main little boy from Home Alone, would have spent $20 on his grocery haul in 1990 when the film came out. In 2023, the same items would have cost him $55. That's a $35 increase over those 20 years. Next slide. So as we look at the Civic Circle, what actions can be taken in support of food insecurity? Feel free to select a few circles and share several ideas, and be creative. You can focus on solutions that tackle this issue on a local, national, or even global lens. And we encourage you to think about circles you're less familiar with. Remember, there are no wrong answers, and as we've been seeing, they're all anonymous. And again, if you're not on the right slide, you'll just click at the top, go to slide, or go to menti.com and use that code. So yeah, soup kitchens, food pantries, and donating to local food pantries, organizing food drives, donating money, community gardens, that's a good one. Speaking of legislators, service, asking corporations to sponsor or donate, yeah, that's a great one. Raising funds for food pantries, helping to stock, volunteering your time, delivering food to elderly, yep. Community dinners, that's a great one. Cooking for local community kitchens, partnerships with local grocery stores, education. These are all great examples.
So many great responses. So we want to just take a moment to highlight some that, that maybe haven't been mentioned when we're thinking about all the various civic circles. So supporting a local social entrepreneur who's working to improve food distribution channels, serving on a school board or advocacy in your school board about making sure that students in your community have access to food during the summer months. Reading an article about food deserts in your community, just bringing awareness that listening and learning is so important. Providing meals to a community food program, talking to friends and families about how they can get involved. You are a very engaged group. You have a lot of power over your friends and your family. So using that in talking to them about this important issue.
And so if we look at all these actions separately, they can certainly support the issue of food security, insecurity. But if we look at them collectively, working together, your actions combined with my actions, what can be accomplished? Imagine all these civic actions working together in your local community. Can the needle be moved? So now we're gathered here because of MLK Day on Monday. So let's reflect on Dr. King and apply the circles to his accomplishments. Which civic circles best represent the civic actions of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Feel free to select up to 3. And we as a team, we're thinking internally about some examples, so I'm going to go through those with you all. So listen and learn. He learned so much about peaceful protests and nonviolent actions from Gandhi. For purchase power, Dr. King played a leadership role in the Montgomery bus boycott. This started in December 1955 and ended the following December of 1956. It's estimated that the bus line lost 30,000 to 40,000 fares each day during the boycott. And as mentioned in his letter from Birmingham jail, MLK encouraged people to not support merchants that refused to remove their, quote, humiliating racial signs. For the vote circle, in The Birth of a New Age, Dr. King states, quote, we must continue to stand up. We must gain the ballot. That is important. We cannot overlook the importance of the ballot, end quote. He also delivered the Give Us the Ballot speech in 1957 in DC, where he stated voting is, quote, a sacred right and one of the highest mandates of our democratic tradition, end quote. For service, Dr. King wrote in Letter from a Birmingham jail, quote, moreover, I am cognizant of the interrelatedness of all communities and states. I cannot sit idly by in Atlanta and not be concerned about what happens in Birmingham. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I assume many of us have heard that quote. And the quote continues, we are caught in an inescapable network of neutrality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one affects us all indirectly. End quote. For volunteering, MLK, all of his time with working on the civic issues was through volunteer work. For work, in November 1967, as part of the Poor People's Campaign, Dr. King planned for thousands of people to meet with government officials to demand jobs, unemployment insurance, a fair minimum wage, and education for poor adults and children designed to improve their self-image and self-esteem. For the Donate Circle, in The Birth of a New Age, he said, quote, we must spend our money not merely for the adolescent and transitory things, but this eternal lasting something that we call freedom, end quote. And for Voice, which got the most votes, because that makes sense. We've talked about so many of his speeches today. These are all examples of him using his voice to mobilize others. And I see 4% of you said social entrepreneurship. If you have any ideas, feel free to put them in the chat because we couldn't think of any. So we'd love to hear what you're thinking. So now let's take a moment to reflect on the Civic Circle and apply it to our own lived experiences. Did anything we shared today about civic actions surprise you? Is there anything you didn't expect to see as part of civic engagement? Has today's presentation changed your view on what civic engagement means and why? And if your view hasn't changed, how has this discussion reinforced what civic engagement means to you? I'm going to put this all into the Mentimeter. Larger than I thought. Yeah, absolutely. That it surprised them. Informal conversations can be a form of engagement. Yep. Reading is part of this. Yeah. I hadn't thought of purchase power in the lens of removing purchases, boycotts, then donations. Small actions matter and compound. Yeah. There's many ways we can help each other. The personal and immediate actions, yeah, do make a big impact on the local, regional, and large scale. Love to see that this person shared it's easier to be involved than I previously thought. And there are different ways to make impact. Yeah, these are all so great to see. Every action counts. Yeah. Informal actions equals impact. Love it. That's a great segue to the next slide.
So we're now going to discuss the concept of privilege and barriers and their effect on civic engagement. For our next question on the Mentimeter, please share what makes a hobby, talent, or skill that you're good at. What makes it easy for you or accessible to you to participate in? Ability to read, you have access to books, you have Wi-Fi. That allows us to do so much. You have time to practice. You have funds to buy food, to do your cooking. You have money, you have technology. You have the drive to help. You're in good health. Yes, yes, you're healthy. You have a place to do your hobby. You're secure in your home. You have access. Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you for those responses. The word privilege can sometimes come with negative connotations. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. The word privilege can sometimes come with negative connotations. It can also make us feel uncomfortable or uneasy, especially for those in a position of privilege. But having privilege often means having a benefit that is out of your control or something you didn't choose. And it's sometimes easier to see the privileges of others than yourself. So I'm going to ask you to move to the next slide. Privileges or lack thereof may exist because of your race, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, religion, wealth, the neighborhood you live in, and the list goes on. So when we talk about barriers, we're referring to the obstacles someone may experience in the absence of certain privileges. Dr. King said that people with privilege seldom gave up that privilege voluntarily. I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about how we can do better. While it may be easy, it's important to acknowledge the privileges you do have because you can translate them into supporting others who may not have the same advantages, and you can be part of making systems fairer and more equitable to others. So what are those challenges and barriers to participation? And I see that many of you have already started answering this in the Mentimeter, but lack of transportation, lack of funds, good health, you're fearful, lack of transportation, you don't know how, it's affordable healthcare is a barrier for people. Lack of transportation, overcoming the fear to take a risk, lack of support from those around you, lack of access. So these are all examples of challenges or barriers to participation. Lack of childcare, yes, absolutely. So many great ideas. As we can see, barriers can exist in many ways. On the slide, we've noted some as well for each of the civic circles, and some of those you've mentioned quite a bit, but I just want to highlight the ones that maybe weren't mentioned. So, we talked a lot about time, and that's certainly something that, absolutely. But being a social entrepreneur, you may lack existing economic opportunity. You may have the inability to disrupt in your personal life. Service, you may be unable to disrupt income and personal life for this lifestyle. Listening, learning, not having a seat at the table reduces your access to this circle. Donating, you may have lack of disposable income. You may lack goods and services to share. Voice, this is something that we in the United States have freedom of speech, but in other places that's not the case. And because of race or gender, your voice may be silenced. A workplace that doesn't make space for you to speak up, not having the ability to choose a place to work at that supports causes or issues you care about. I mean, that's really a luxury that some of us have. Voting, transportation, a lot of people mention that. Medical conditions that make it harder for people to get to the polling places. And then purchase power, right? Some people don't have the luxury and lack disposable income, and they have limited choices about where they can shop based on where they live. So all of these can be barriers. We can go to the next slide. So let's take a moment to reflect on this. The privilege we have can open doors and increase our accessibility for others around civic engagement. A few minutes ago, we asked you to think about potential barriers within the civic circle. Can you think of a barrier that exists for others but doesn't exist for you? What role can you play in reducing or eliminating that barrier? Age, you're younger or older, or you can impact, you have impact, you can impact the community, you can volunteer to be a driver, you have money to donate, you can speak up for groups that's voices may be silenced, you can offer transportation, you have time, you can help them with the time, share rides, ability to communicate in English. Yes, absolutely. Education, using your education and tutoring those that are in need. Discussing issues, sharing your knowledge can help eliminate barriers. Mentorship, absolutely. There are so many incredible mentorship programs that you can share your learnings and reduce barriers for other people. Help underprivileged kids with college applications and scholarships. Yes, you can use your race. You can use your seat at the table to remove barriers for others. Being a role model. Absolutely. Listening to those in need. Being present. Yes, listening. Lack of money, offering scholarships, paying it forward. Yes, absolutely. And you can help internationally with organizations such as UNICEF. Yeah, these are incredible, incredible answers. Thank you for being so thoughtful.
So thinking about those that you just shared, which civic circles best represent the civic actions you're most interested in exploring? These can be actions you want to take or areas you want to learn more about, and select up to 3. Nice. Volunteering is up there. We always love to see that for Volunteer New York. Listen and learn, Purchase power. Yeah, I know I need to go to a hardware store and I'm going to choose to go to my local one rather than a big chain store. Social entrepreneur. Nice. Not seeing a lot in donate, but that's okay. Oh, and there we go. Listen and learn, voting. Yeah, this year is the presidential election, but don't forget the small elections also matter. Nora wouldn't be able to serve on her village if people didn't vote for her. So yes, all elections matter. Great. Love to see the diversity across the board. So now for this next question. What is the likelihood that you'll be able to take some form of civic action in the next 30 days? And if it's realistic, it's not going to happen. That's okay. And remember, this is anonymous. We're not going to track you down in 30 days and be like, February 13th, you didn't do what you said you would. But we hope that this might inspire you too. Loving to see we're almost 100% for definitely will. But anyone thinking maybe not right now, don't forget about the informal ways you can have you can do a civic action. It's a conversation at the dinner table with family about an issue impacting a community. It's shoveling a neighbor's driveway or helping to move any. I know we're supposed to get a lot of rain and potential snow this weekend, so maybe it's helping out, making sure your neighbors have a clear way to get out of their driveway. Or maybe you're meeting up with a friend later this weekend and you're going to tell them about today's webinar and about civic engagement and food insecurity and Martin Luther King Jr. But really happy to see that the majority definitely will take some sort of civic action. And the last interactive part of today's webinar is you're gonna make an I will statement. So wherever you fall along the spectrum in the last question, our hope is that you leave this session inspired by civic engagement in some way. We'd love everybody to take a few moments and draft an I will statement. This statement will guide whatever commitment you want to make after you leave this session, big or small. What is your what's next? I will help someone who's not good in tech with time and education. Nice. I will deliver food packages. I'll be more active in the community. I'll assist family out of the country with building a home. I'll share resources with others. And it's okay if you can't think about what your I will statement will be right now, but maybe you could think about it later, maybe put it on a post-it at your mirror. And that could be, we're all on New Year's resolution time. Maybe this can be part of it. I'll donate resources to help others. I'll find more informal places to talk about causes I care about. Mentor or coach someone with passing the GED. Read more about Black history. I will be consistent every interaction to listen, learn, and grow. I'll attend more webinars and meetings that are educational. I'll do one act of kindness for someone at least once a week, but aiming for more. That's awesome. Check on a neighbor. And feel free to tell your friends or family, hold each other accountable on all this. I love seeing these. This is a great screenshot of kind of what we all can do to make, hopefully, the world a better place. So a lot can be accomplished, and all these individual actions can really add up to make a change. So I'm going to pass it back over to Nora, who will close us out with takeaways and next steps.
Thank you, Abby. And thank you all for hanging with us. We know it's a lot of information that we've covered today. And as you transition back to your weekend, we want to leave you today with 5 key takeaways for you to think about after this session. And, thank you, Jennifer. So the first one is civic engagement is not a one-size-fits-all. There are a lot of ways to be involved from a civic perspective. The Civic Circle is power. You are powerful. Your voice, everything about your actions is powerful. This power is not equally accessible. Think about that. Think about how you can help make other people's power accessible. No matter what, listen and learn. Always be listening, always be taking it in, always be educating yourself. And the change starts with you. Individuals taking action is necessary for change. With that, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We enjoyed seeing all the great ideas and insights you had to share, and we hope you're inspired to continue on your own civic engagement journey. Find ways to take action today with hundreds of volunteer opportunities and drives on our website, www.volunteernewyork.org. We're here to help. If you don't know where to start, we have you covered. Connect with our staff to help you find the right fit for you. Go to www.volunteernewyork.org/schedule, and you can sign up for a free consultation with one of our staff members. A survey has been put into the chat. We would love your feedback on this presentation and what you learned today. This is new content for us, so we would really appreciate all of your feedback, and taking the time to fill out the survey is much appreciated. Lastly, we will follow up with all of you with an email that will share a link with you with a guide to help you develop your own personal civic engagement action plan. By going through each question, you'll discover opportunities that match your interests and values, as well as identifying up to 3 action steps. We want to leave you with the words of Martin Luther King that we feel are really the essence of the Civic Circle. We must live together. We are not independent, we are interdependent. We are all involved in a single process. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly, for we are tied together in a single progress. We are all linked in the great chain of humanity. As one man said, that no man is an island entirely of himself. Every man is a piece of a continent and a part of a main. Remember that Dr. King said that everyone can be great because everyone can serve. And we at Volunteer New York wholeheartedly believe in your greatness. And with that, have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
And please fill out the survey. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to volunteernewyork.org.